At a classmate's wedding, they were young, maybe like 22, 23. There was apparently a caking tradition in some parts of the country where when they cut the wedding cake, the couple feed each other a bit and smear each other faces with cake as a joke. The bride had absolutely made 1000% clear to the groom she did not want to be caked. He did it anyways, and not just a small smear, but full-on smushed the slice in her face. She was stunned initially, then got up, face full of cake, yelled, "You asshole, I told you not to do that," and then ran to a back area in the reception. The groom tried to follow, but the bridesmaid's mother of the bride stopped him. So he sat at the head table awkwardly while half the wedding party rushed off with the bride. She stayed back there for like an hour. They eventually did let him back there to check on her. We could hear her crying and them arguing. The rest of the reception came to a screeching halt until one of the bride aunts emerged and directed the servers to clear the tables and put on some music. They got divorced 2 years later. This seems to be a fairly common predictor. If partners aren't on the same page about the cake thing and the one who thinks it funny disregards their new spouse feelings on the matter, it's a bad sign for the longevity of the marriage. Definitely. My wife and I didn't want cake smashed in our faces, and we didn't want to be goaded into it by guests because they wanted some dumb picture. So we eliminated the potential problem entirely by having wedding pies instead. Happened at my niece's wedding. Her new husband full-on shoved that cake in her face and she lost it. Almost exactly what you described, except she never got over it. From that point forward for the rest of the night she was in tears, or screaming in rage. The wedding was literally ruined. A lot of people left when it became obvious that it had turned into a big shit show. I spent most of the reception outside smoking pot with various guests, young and old, so that was kind of fun. They're still married. Haha. Some of my fondest family get-together memories are of sneaking off to get stoned with my cousins. Inevitably members of the old guard would come up to us. "Hey, have you kids been smoking that dope? I can smell it," say. "Do you have any more?" I never got the whole cake to the face thing. "Oh, so we spend way too much on my hair and makeup for this special day and you're gonna throw cake in it? Also, your first act as a husband is to disrespect my reasonable request? Get TF out of here." My dad's mother and stepfather owned a bar restaurant back in the 60s that hosted the occasional wedding reception. At one such reception, the husband caked the wife, even as she was asking him not to, knowing he would do it. When he did, a fist fight broke out between the newlyweds that soon involved much of the wedding. As far as I know, they were married for a long time after. The groom gave a speech thanking everyone for coming that devolved in the space of about 2 minutes into a straight-up roast of his new brother-in-law. They were friends, and the brother-in-law seemed to take it in good humor. But there's only so much implication of "I'm for sure going to be fucking your sister tonight" that you can take before it becomes really creamy. It didn't help that I barely knew anyone there because I was a +1, and B, I was on the table with the elderly relatives from that side of the family, who were less than amused. Bride shows up almost 2 hours late to her own wedding. Southern California, in an open field, no water, no shade. She shows up and wants to get married in her yoga outfit. The groom shut it down, and when she refused to change her clothes, the groom decided to leave her looking stupid and they never got married. Edit. I spoke with my uncle and it turns out he had speculation that his fiancée was sleeping with her personal trainer. When she showed up in her yoga outfit, it was all he needed to call off the wedding. She ended up married to her personal trainer and divorced again. At the reception line, after the church wedding ceremony, the bride had a large bottle of her favorite perfume and sprayed each guest with it, female and male, whether they wanted it or not. As they entered the banquet hall, some guests complained that the smell of perfume was so strong that they lost their appetite and couldn't partake of the banquet. "Hey hun, just wanted to share this great fragrance with you to celebrate my husband and I special day. For a limited time, I offering you this unique opportunity to become an early distributor with me. Respond quick while there's still spaces. This great product won't be a secret for long. It blowing up already. Easy to see why. The ingredients are so ethical and honest. It practically made of honor." I wasn't a guest, I was working the wedding. The bride got drunk and sat on some other dude's lap for 2 hours and flirted with him while the groom sat by himself at the head table with a defeated look on his face. They bought an apple orchard after leaving the city to live a simpler life, and really doubled down on the apple theme. Apples everywhere. on the tables, in baskets all around the venue, on the podium where they got married. Pictures of apples hanging everywhere, small fake trees with apples tossed under them. The dude marrying them had an apple tie on. Apples somehow incorporated into every dish for the reception. The cake was shaped like an apple. It was really fucking bizarre. They sold the orchard a couple years later because they had no idea what they were doing. When I was in high school, one of my hockey teammates had a kid with his girlfriend when they were juniors. They decided to get married and the wedding was officiated by my teammate's dad, who also happened to be our head coach. The entire wedding was the bride and groom's direct family and the hockey team at a Golden Corral. Then the reception was at the same Golden Corral. Then we had a hockey game that night. The other team we played that night somehow found out about it and hounded the guy the whole time. They were a bunch of dicks. Now about 7 years later that have a second kid. Dad is an officer in the Air Force. Both of his kids play hockey and he coaches and rapes, and him and his wife look very happy, so I glad it all worked out for them. I haven't spoken to him in a while, but I seen his dad, our old coach, at alumni games, and they such an awesome family. They the perfect example of the fact that you don't need a giant, expensive, fancy ass wedding to be happy. As long as you have each other, family, and friends, it's a joyous occasion that should be celebrated. I've worked over 200 weddings at the same venue. Many couples wanted fireworks and we had a company that could always do a show. The couple always, without fail, would pick Firework by Katy Perry to play during the show. The ceremony also was the name reveal. They changed their last name because they didn't want to be stuck to their heritage and didn't want anything to hold them back. Turns out they changed their name thinking they could erase their mountains of debt or at least hide from it. Turns out you can live under two legal identities.